Hey, howdy doody. I just want to tell you that if you are on Facebook and you try and send a chat thing to your friend and include the word ascene.com, they'll say that it's spam because Zuckerberg blew up Maldeck. So have a great day and enjoy my video. Peace. Well, good morning. February 17th. I'm in Texas, west of Austin. I picked these up and I made most of a buster out of one of them. That's a plain view thing where you remove the tobacco and replace it with cannabis, and then you substitute the filter. In this case, I'm able to sever the paper here at the top, the dark stuff, and roll it up and put it in. So I need to do more research to find out if it's carcinogenic, this product. I did some initial research and they just use the term additives. So that's a dangerous term, and this may be my last 2 packs. I got a menthol and a regular. But I want to speak for a few minutes and then we'll listen to Douglas McGregor. I describe Doug McGregor as, well, he's a DC combat arms guy. He's been in the field, I go to war with him. He's not an intel guy as a primary specialty, but he's more the foreign area officer type, like foreign service. But he's a well-read infantry guy, and he follows the history. He tracked what was going on in the Ukraine pretty well with sources, and he was a briefer for Donald Trump when Trump was in office, during the Syria portion of the Trump administration, right before he pulled out. And McGregor made a note about how Donald rationalized, hey, if we shoot them, they're going to shoot back, and then we'll be in a shooting war, so let's sort of stand off. Meanwhile, he schwacked Soleimani and left. And Nostradamus called that out, by the way, because there was configuration in Leo where there were a couple of planets that were tied in for a while right in that window. And the guy who pointed that out his name's Mark. He goes by Naughty Beaver, and he's off of all the social media now, but he's still on Rumble. So if you look up Naughty Beaver, one of his favorites is on there, but he's got days of video, and I don't know where the hell he put them. So before I get going in this, I'd like to make a basic point about who we are. You have to take every characteristic of every species and subspecies of animal on our planet and then give that thing its own planet where it runs it. Then you have an idea of how diverse the universe is. There are innumerable planets in these constellations, but they are numbered, and there are primary constellations. And where are the aborigines from a human standpoint through time? And there were primary seeders of our DNA. The Mars Maldeck Council, the Mars Council, and the Andromedians hit it over time, millions of years. Now the Pleiadians kind of run the show from the future, and they've been playing. And the beings from Alcyon are superseders supporting our Creator, who lives in you, to make sure that during your otherwise dim-witted day that you come across something that makes some level of sense to change what the hell you see going on around you. So angels are ET and many are human. And we're aborigines. They've got those deep instruments. They figured out how to blow dart the green giant and let the ladies tickle them after they woke up. Throughout history, the smaller, smarter. That's why Musk was selected, because he's smart and he's small, but he missed it. He took a Draco soul swap because of what he had done in Andromeda. 27 August. So we're going up in love and peace. And this guy, Doug McGregor, is probably still in senatusconsultum.eu, where he was given a position. Same place Duterte is. So we're going to listen to him once I get my phone proper. Go, Dougie. I'm going to be above.
Situations. Colonel McGregor, thank you for joining me today.
Sure, happy to be with you.
So, as you know, a couple of days ago at 4 a.m, the Senate banded together to pass this $95 billion security bill to give money to Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. Over 20 Republican senators locked arms with Democrats
Taiwan,
and said,
that's like anti-China.
Hey, let's go ahead and strip out all the money for our own national security, our own border. Let's strip out money for veterans,
Pelosi
seniors,
likes Taiwan.
children.
The Lee family's in
What are
Taiwan.
your thoughts
The
on
Ever-Given
this? Is this
conglomerate.
a prime example
Evergreen is in
of
Taiwan.
the military-industrial
That's the Lee
complex
family.
that General Eisenhower warned us about?
Oh, Eisenhower.
Well, I think there are several things. It reaffirms that the people in Washington are largely disinterested in what the American people need or want.
That would be Joe
They're
Biden.
completely unresponsive
Or
to
Trump.
real national
But he's a Trump zombie,
needs.
ultimately.
We don't need to fund Ukraine any longer. We never needed to do so to begin with, but now it's patently obvious to even the casual observer that Ukraine is in ruins. That war is lost.
True. See,
and if there was a shred of humanity in anyone in Washington,
Vladimir
D.C.,
Putin,
we would work to stop this
it's
terrible war
Borat
immediately.
who got Rudy. It's the comedians of the Draco. Ancient. Listen, they cut out their own service members' organs while living.
Enormous restraint.
That's their humanitarian
they're not pushing
aid.
as fast as they could to the
Facilitated
River
from a lady from Amsterdam.
And obviously, there's
a
no
live
interest
organ
in
donor program. Then they take the
West
epidural
they
sacks
don't
and
want to
bury
rule
them for a few days and grow a new
and
one.
be real Ukrainians from an ethnic,
And if you don't believe that, you don't believe in biochemistry
west of that river,
or advances in the human genome.
In the past. Ultimately,
I'm
what the
telling
Russians
you
want to do
that
is get back to business.
we figured it
with
out.
The rest of
They,
the world,
we.
particularly the Europeans.
They named the planets, but not Venus and Mars.
Especially the Germans. So this is evidence that, nobody, I shouldn't say nobody, but the overwhelming majority of people sitting in the Senate
not Neptune,
are just responding to their donors. They're looking at what puts cash into their pockets. They have.
You're into Disney. TikTok. Mr. Joe.
Have some interest in their constituents insofar
Your neighbor,
as they want to keep assembly lines producing weapons that can ultimately be sent to Ukraine. But keep in mind that most of the money will go towards equipment that has to be built. Our
How'd they do that? How did Mark Zuckerberg get
Threads? We don't have very much to send without completely endangering our own security.
Mr. Chores.
So that means that most of this money goes into production that the Ukrainians,
and from Taiwan,
there are any left
precious Chinese told their counter people.
So how serious
traditional
can they be?
Chinese medicine
the
works.
notion that we should spend money on Taiwan at this point for defense, and supposedly in the Western
My
Pacific,
son lived in Taiwan for a year. He speaks Mandarin.
Is just pure unadulterated nonsense.
They have parks. They're very westernized.
No one in China is going to invade Taiwan. There's no danger to Taiwan unless we put missiles on Taiwan and troops on Taiwan and equipment on Taiwan and threaten China.
Well,
so that's a shibboleth. That's a
dry bomb Luzon
horse from the beginning.
Let's talk Philippines.
And then you mentioned Israel. Well, Israel's economy is in ruins.
The Mossad,
and
Five
if we
Eyes.
were not to send billions of dollars there right now,
they were black hats. They won the 6-Day
War.
When they're ready to roll, they roll.
Most of their manpower that would otherwise be productively employed in the economy into the military. And they're rapidly developing a multi-front war.
Everybody plays.
So this thing
voluntarily.
Israel is actually beginning to run out of control.
You name me a Jew that isn't
don't seem to understand it. I think their assumption is that the war will end
in some regard
whenever the Israelis decide they've killed enough Arabs, but they don't really understand the length and breadth of the disaster that is emerging in the region.
The Aborigines.
That's another matter. So the
Saddam
bottom line
Hussein.
is The American people had
But
better
some of them
just
are
come to
warlocked
terms
out,
with
like
reality that they
Arafat.
are not
You know,
represented
they get born in and they're
Washington.
reptilian.
There's far more
But
interest
there's
in
innocent
diluting
people, the
our
Aborigines
national
or the
identity,
Arabs,
culture, way
the
of
Sheiks,
life, weakening the population's
Sultans,
cohesion, our society's cohesion,
them.
by bringing in millions and millions of people
They've
that we know
lived there,
nothing about,
and
from
Palestine
places
was a part of it.
with which we have nothing in common.
So the
than they are in
Palestinians are the
actual
Aborigines,
health
Arabs
and welfare and security
of Al
the American
Jazeera.
people. In fact,
Like, let my
somebody said to
people
me
leave
quite
us
recently,
alone,
"We keep
please. It's
talking
our
about the
home."
American people. Who are they?
And they're the fake Jews
Well, I think
from the
you're an
Ukraine.
American. I think I'm an American.
Tied right in, the Draco
How many
and the
of us are
reptiles.
left out there who simply see ourselves as Americans?
And along comes King
who think in
Solomon
terms
after
of
Ham
what's
Bone
in the
Noah.
country's interest, what's best for it.
Solomon,
I don't know. I still think there's a
out of
lot
David.
left of this. But you'd never
RH
know it in
negative,
Washington
Bathsheba.
because there certainly isn't much interest in this.
Away we go.
Yeah. The
King
thing that
Solomon
gets
just stamping it
somewhat
like Mel
confusing
Brooks.
for me
What? I'm
is
king?
they
Yes.
wanna send
Here's
all
another
these
woman.
billions of dollars of
Magic
taxpayer
attained
money or
HIV.
borrowed money, but from a very simplistic point of view, it seems
know
like
what's
we're
going on.
sending money to get
They all thank
Ukrainians
Fauci.
killed.
Trump
and
got
we're giving Israel money
hydroxychloroquine
to
from
get
Fauci
Arabs
right on
killed.
TV.
I mean, at the end of the
And
day,
if you
we're
go
just
back in
funding
the American
death.
Journal of Medicine, you'll see
You
that
know,
the
and
physicians
also gets
ibited
very
and
confusing
footnoted
because
each other
on the
saying,
one
that
hand,
shit works.
You know, we're saying, okay,
SARS,
Israel,
Ebola, you name
here's
it.
all the money and weapons you
Early
need to carry out
2000s,
your,
they were telling you in
attacks
black and
that we
white,
disagree
still
with,
researchable
but
on
then we're sending,
public
you
media.
know, all this aid on a daily basis
And
into
yet we,
Gaza and Rafah.
Johns Hopkins
So
University
it
with
very
3-letter
confusing
networks,
from, again, an
to
outsider,
where
no
70% of the planet took it,
it just
untested
seems like we're just
or
funding death.
pseudo-tested or whatever.
Well, I think we need to keep in mind that while
Henry
we
Aaron,
at least
doing it for the young
financially
men.
supporting
Bomb.
aid that could be delivered to
Evander
Gaza and
Holyfield.
Rafah and so forth.
I forgive
It's
Mike
not
Tyson.
happening.
Bomb.
There are at least 500,000 people who are on the edge of starvation.
Well,
That doesn't even begin
starvation's
to
the thing.
address the problems
What's
with
the
water,
edge?
sanitation, and so forth.
What's the
So
edge?
we're
Not
looking
having a
within
bank
the next
account?
6 months, 3 months,
Needing
somewhere in
to get online
at
and
the very
beg?
high probability that there will be 500,000
Being a woman
dead in Gaza.
With a body?
What I
In this
hear
day and
repeated
age,
over and
maybe
over
it's
and
me,
over again
maybe
is
it's
we're
not.
giving Israel
Throw me
what it
some
needs
money,
to defend
please.
itself. Well, it's got what it needs to defend itself.
Online, the anonymity
What
of
happened
Mark
on the 7th
Zuckerberg.
of October was tragic.
Who's playing
it was
what roles?
unfortunate and
Good Lord, they
offensive,
imitate who,
but
what,
at the
where,
same
and
time,
why.
They made a mistake.
Who's on first?
Now, unless
Klaus
someone is going to
Schwab.
stand up and say we deliberately
He
did
dreams
this, which
about
I
it
doubt
with
in
them.
Israel, then
He gets
someone
up
made
and
a
he
terrible
talks about
mistake.
it.
In other
Klaus
words,
Schwab.
the gate was left open. And you're talking about an intelligence service that has the advantages that we do of extraordinary penetrating surveillance, overhead,
Now, she
ISR.
doesn't
so
know
the
I'm
notion
watching her.
that, this is just the
That
defense
wasn't
of
my-
Israel is ludicrous.
My smartphone was.
This is something much more
She
than
was.
that. It's clearly part of this project
One
to
each.
make Israel a much larger and more dominant state in the region. And that has to come at the expense of the Arab population that lives inside Israel's borders. That means
chicken
Gaza
bundle.
and the West Bank.
The whole fucking bundle.
Nobody ever brings up the West Bank. There are thousands of Arabs that are being held without trial that have just been picked up and randomly shoved into prisons.
They
We have
drop
the same
white
thing in
phosphorus
Gaza,
bombs
but
on them. He's
Gaza
telling the
gets
truth.
most of the attention because there it's unmistakable. The bombings and the
yeah.
killings are shattering. and
Inside
overwhelming.
defense, and Aaron Cohen's
Somebody
all
said
ready
to me
to
the
do
other day,
it.
well, you've always supported
He's a
Israel.
part
Why
of
don't
it.
you support Israel? I said, of course I support Israel. I've
he
always
has to.
supported the existence of the state.
See? He flipped.
And I still feel strongly that we should preserve the state. But I said, you're asking me something else. He said, what do you
Why?
mean I'm asking
Why
you something
preserve
else?
the
I
state?
said, well, would I stand by and applaud or cheer the systematic destruction of 2 million Jews in Israel? Well, my answer is absolutely not. But yet you're asking me why I don't applaud and cheer the destruction of 2 million lives that happen to be Arab in Gaza. I said, I can't do it. I think it's wrong. And it's interesting that the people that posture morally in Washington all the time seem to have turned a completely blind eye to what is more.
So God gave us Trump. God said, I need somebody willing to get up
this is a
before
commercial.
dawn, fix this country, work
watch
all
it.
day, fight the Marxists, eat supper, then go to the Oval Office and stay past
Look, is this,
midnight at a
this
meeting
is
of
the
the heads of
fucking,
state. So God made Trump.
Our guy.
I need somebody with
the rest
arms,
of the story.
strong enough to rustle
Sounds
the deep
like
state, and yet gentle enough to deliver his own grandchild.
Oh my
Somebody
God.
to ruffle the feathers.
He is
tame
a mastermind
World
of
Economic
everything.
Forum, come home hungry.
You
Have to wait
fucking
until the first lady is done
deceitful
with
bastard.
lunch with
His son-in-law's
friends.
Lucifer.
Then tell the ladies to be sure
Fucking
and come back
Augustus
real
Caesar.
soon.
Look at him.
And mean it.
Long coat.
So God gave us Trump.
All American
right
patriots
there, right
who
in
are
front of
seeing
your
this
face.
video to
Insert
join
it on
forces
this video.
and get President Trump back.
Go away.
Morally reprehensible in Israel. And if
Now,
you say something about it, then you're automatically castigated as a...
let's talk about Jews being killed. Where does that come from? Start counting the number of caskets that people like Netanyahu are in observance of, coming back to whatever their ritual is for putting away a Jew dead body. They'll have the occasional one who's kept isolated and finally done in so he can be sort of martyred, but those are few. I mean, if they're real, they're few and far between. They're a complete illusion, and a perfect example is the midway point of the tribulation, when in March of 2021 they marched out a guy named Jezariah ben David to go wobble at the wall. That is the Coney Island McRib. You don't pay tax, they hang you up in prep for a Thanksgiving celebration, draining blood and packing that white meat to put in the seasonal release. And if you don't think FEMA bodies didn't contribute in the past 4 months, you're on the wrong planet. And this guy's in senatusconsulting.eu, and he's a Trump devotee.
all sorts of terrible things, bigots, anti-Semites, so forth. That includes a lot of Jewish people
Trump
in the United States who were equally
false
appalled.
peace with Bahrain and UAE.
But you know, this is the mystery of Washington. Both
Trump
the American
was
people
on the
need to
coin with
disentangle
Cyrus
themselves
and
from the mystery.
Truman.
They need to understand that everything in Washington is still driven by money.
23 September
And that's what's calling
2017
the tune
commenced
there
that
right now.
initial
You have
point
enough
to
money
which
that
Ben
you can enrich
David
enough
wobbled in
people
the middle, and that was
inside the
only one
Beltway.
half. You got to calculate
You
it
can
two
really
ways
determine
because Francis went
the
to
direction and the impact of American foreign and defense
the
policy.
Ziggurat Temple, and right before that he met with
Max Blumenthal was on
Al-Sistani,
my show. He said
who's the
construction is
Muslim
booming in
opposition
Washington,
to
D.C.,
the first cousins
thanks
of
to
the
the
war.
Russia-Ukraine war, that people are
The distorted Book
expanding,
of
building on
Islam
their
is
houses,
them.
building brand new mansions.
Go to Kissinger,
It's all
go
built
to
on
the
blood,
illumination of what happened in Tehran,
this
their
money gets
compliance,
funneled back
Ahmadinejad, who's
corporate
told
donors,
everybody that
military
Iran should come to the
contractors. These
deal.
are Mitch McConnell's words, not
The
mine.
college student
Oh, don't worry, that money doesn't go to
who
Ukraine.
preached to the
It
UN
goes to
with
weapons
cross-eyed
makers.
about it.
Well, that's the problem, it's this vicious cycle of, and I like
He
how
was in
you
Tehran
separate
at the embassy
people,
raid.
the voter, the
Not.
constituent, from the donor. When you first said donor, my mind goes to, the people that give, a couple bucks here and there. But no, you're talking about the corporate donors who give and then expect those favors to be called.
So this
at
guy's
some point
he's a
during
fairly
somebody's,
objective host trying to
time
figure
in
shit
office.
out. He's had McGregor
I
on
like to call
before he
them
got
billionaire
appointed.
oligarchs.
Yeah, well, Putin has
we have oligarchs
them.
in Eastern Europe and Ukraine and Russia.
Some
we talk
succeed,
about them all
some
the time. I would say
Depends
that
on what your
Putin has
agenda is,
either
I guess. I mean,
eliminated
shit.
or tamed the oligarchs to the point where
That
they
guy
are now
is a
aligned with
dictator
Russian
and he's
national
benevolent.
interests.
So
We haven't. Our oligarchs
I'm letting you
are
know
on a
that
different
Vladimir
planet.
Putin would
They
not
don't even
terminate
live in the same
anybody
country
who,
that the rest of us do.
unless it was cold-blooded and he had to play at that
Okay,
level. He wanted to get
around the same
into
time
NATO
that
in the
this
year 2000. He
$95
asked
billion security
he asked
for
Clinton
everybody
if he
else
could.
bill was passed.
He said so in his interview.
House Republicans.
Why would he
came
lie
together
about that?
and impeached,
Clinton didn't deny what he
Department of
said.
Homeland Security head
And then
Alejandro
Clinton came back to
Mayorkas.
him and said,
This
nope,
is the
not
first
now.
cabinet member in
In the
a
year
presidency
2000.
impeached since
So
1876.
hear me.
How important is it to get
I mean,
Alejandro Mayorkas
there's
out,
lots of ways
or
to get to
is
the
this
golden
perfect
age, and
example of
I'm not saying
cutting
that's what
off
he
the
was
head of
thinking. He
Hydra
wanted to
and
know if he
7
could
more
join
grow
NATO
back, and this problem just
as the new
continues
leader of
to
Russia
exist.
in the year
Well, given the
2000.
split that you just described in the Senate in terms of its willingness
That was
to
8
vote
years
all of
before
these
Obama
subsidies
came
for
into
everyone
office.
and everything beyond the borders
And
of
he
the United
switched with
States.
Medvedev or whatever his
You
name
might as
is
well
to
come
be
to
the
terms
foreign
with reality
minister
that
PM,
this is
swap a doodle,
cosmetic.
and he came back in.
Mayorkas isn't going anywhere. He's close
So
friends with
the
Chuck Schumer, and he's
Politburo
part
was
of Chuck
put in the hands
Schumer's
of a benevolent dictator
cheerleading,
after
audience.
Gorbachev.
So I don't see any evidence that anything's going to change at
And
all.
he's
And we all know
KGB.
that Mayorkas is
Grew up
instrumental
as
in
an
keeping
intel
those
guy.
borders open.
And they're not a part of
and
Five Eyes.
encouraging
They got their
millions
own
of people to
organic
march
shit.
north.
Don't you see?
He's seen the camps
Russia's
that exist
got
on
what
the
they
ground
need.
in Darien, down in Panama.
And now they have bricks.
We have Chinese camps.
And I have nothing against the Russians.
African
That's what's so
camps
great
and
about
Arab
it.
camps and so forth and so on.
We're going
In
to
other words,
party on.
facilities built
Governments
for
are going to
people
drop.
coming into Panama from around the world.
You know, Nero was a
we
party
see buses
animal,
that
and he
show up
did
and
in
move people around. We see them
Shoemaker and
move all the way to
Garrison.
the Mexican border.
Back then.
We know the kinds of horrific acts that are committed against women
IEDP.
and children on the way up.
And drop a Christian,
Nobody pays
fixed wing,
attention
or
to
rotary
it.
wing,
And then
Paul,
once they
Bill
arrive, we
Garrison,
hand
the
them a
Schlurp
check.
from
We give them a
Pecos.
cell phone and then free tickets to wherever they want to go. And all of the airlines are told to fly these people
that's an
wherever
order.
they
He
want to
drove
go.
a
The bus
Porsche
terminals
in
are told to
Texas.
pick them up and take them.
That fucking
And then they
Schlurp.
arrive.
He admitted
and
what
the
he
idea
did.
is that if you can distribute enough
Bill
of these
Garrison.
people all over the country, you can
Man
turn
from
the
the
so-called
Sinai,
proverbial
broken
red
leg,
states
and
into
then all of a
blue
sudden,
states.
101st
Blue
plane
meaning,
crashes.
I guess,
Oh, what a
bloodless.
coincidence.
No longer American.
Oh, Joe
fundamentally
Votel
foreign in
was
the
the
hands of
XO of
people
Ken
that do
Stouse
not
who got dropped in
support
Utah.
and
Oh,
are
he
not
becomes the
loyal to United
counter
States of
IED
America.
guy
That's what it boils down to.
for Pete
And
Shoemaker,
they're
who
winning.
found Looking Glass and
They're
advised
winning
George
because
W.
no one is really
H.W.
stepping
Bush
up
from
and
there
doing
on
anything
out.
about it.
Since WTC 1.
Okay,
He found it in 80.
The biggest story in the news this past
You
week
know,
has
they
been,
stare at it and they're able to
Tucker
see
Carlson
stuff.
His
So here we go.
stupidness or courage, depending on which side of the aisle you're reading from.
He's a role
He
player,
interviews,
pro-Trump.
Russian President Vladimir Putin.
Good interview.
What were your thoughts on this interview, and was there anything
wait.
that Putin
I bet he
said
tells
that
truth.
stood out to you?
Well, the first thing that springs to mind is that Tucker is a very courageous individual.
All right.
He knows the risks associated with going to Russia and interviewing the Russian head of state.
My
right
God,
now.
what?
As far as
Did he
Washington
strap a
is
bomb to
concerned,
himself?
we are at war with Russia. We
What
have
the
no
fuck?
declared war,
Please,
but we're
please.
doing everything short of committing
They
our
were begging
air, ground, and
CNN,
naval forces to
but the
fight.
Russians would
What we've
not
done is
allow it to
commit lots
happen.
of
And Putin
advisors
chose
and
them.
clandestine individuals
With the consent
to
of the
support
guys that
and
know
make
what the fuck they're
equipment work
doing. They
and
picked him.
Systems work for the Ukrainians.
He
and
got
at the
fired
same
from
time,
Fox.
huge quantities
He's
of money.
Twitterite.
So he's
He's
in
a
difficult
Trump
position
zombie,
because
Ivy
of the vantage
League,
point of this
peachy
government
faced.
and most people in Washington. He's undermining
Like a
the
damn
effort
jack-o'-lantern
because he's
now.
gone to ask the foreign head of state for the truth. What is it? Why? What are you in this for? What is this really
we're
about?
getting there.
Everything I heard from Putin, I consider to be true and accurate. Exception
Yes.
One
There
area
you go.
where I was disappointed but not
Great minds
surprised.
think alike. I'm not incented to
The problem in
consult
Russia
with
is
you.
that
I'll
the
tell
Russian
everything.
government
I'll tell this fucking guy
has
a few
not come to
things.
terms with the
Who are you
Stalinist
before you were
period
you, buddy?
in communism. Now, everyone knows that communism was a disaster. But what the Russian people
be
really
careful.
are not aware of, they don't have the details.
Be
I think
careful
many of
who's
them
got
know,
bricks. Are they communists?
their instincts tell them this. Their fathers, grandfathers told them these things, but they are not really fully aware of the tens of millions of human beings that
Putin
were
will teach you
murdered
history
between
that goes back
1918
as far as it needs
and
to
the
go.
beginning of the Second World War.
And Joe
Millions.
Biden was
And
Genghis
what
Khan.
people don't understand is that in
He
1939,
was on Mars in the
when you had the
basement.
Soviet-German
Logistics
pact,
for the past 1,000 years
between
he's got
Ribbentrop,
in his
Ribbentrop,
tapestry.
the German foreign minister,
Joe
and
Biden.
Molotov, the Soviet foreign minister.
First guy to
This
congratulate
enabled
Jimmy Carter
Stalin
in
and his
76.
armies to overrun Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, and
peg
half
him.
of Finland, as well as nearly half of Poland.
Friend is Scotty
This
Green.
resulted in the
6
death
miles
either
from
through
Jeffrey Epstein.
deportation,
Yeah, that show.
execution, or simple exposure to the elements for
Water
millions
Island.
of people that lived in those areas.
Trump's got Mar-a-Lago.
That doesn't come up for discussion. Instead, everyone talks
Trump's
about,
got
well, Hitler,
Trump
Hitler,
Tower.
Hitler. There could not
Trump
have been a
was
Second World War
Augustus
without two
Caesar.
things. First of all, without
And the Eye of the
communism
Needle was
coming to
placed there
power
by
in
Enki
1918,
for him.
and then consolidating its
Doringer.
power through the murder of millions
To
of
be
human
Henry
beings
Kissinger.
inside the Soviet Union.
And Clinton was
You
Ahab,
would
and
not have
Hillary was
had the fear that
Jezebel. Right
emerged
back
from the
to
rest of
Jeffrey
Europe,
Epstein.
particularly in Germany, where by the time
They're attracted
is
in a
he
Luciferian
finally
social
elected to
memory
office,
complex.
And when I say elected, that's misleading. He
Of
had
blood.
32% of the vote. It was largely in response to the fear of communism
and the
inside
illusion
Germany.
of TV that they
People knew that millions were being starved to death.
So he's alt TV.
This bobblehead is just ridiculous. And did you notice who it is?
Yeah.
That's right, none other than the man who will make this country great once again.
Oh.
Tagline, I'll be back in 2024.
Yeah, 2020.
This Trumpinator bobblehead is a rare collectible. And patriots are scarfing them up like crazy.
It's on
so
my
grab yours
video
now because they'll
Donnie.
be gone quicker than Sleepy Joe's memory.
Sleepy
Isn't
Joe
this
ain't
baby
no
just
sleeping.
beautiful?
Last time
These
I
are
checked,
just
he was running
fantastic,
FEMA,
let
you
me tell
fucking
you.
moron.
They're perfect to
Last time I
collect and
checked,
keep
you
for
were on
yourself.
trial in New York
Or
City,
maybe
bozo.
even to gift a
I know you
friend or
keep
family
winning,
member who loves
like
Joe.
Charlie Sheen. I'm winning.
Either way, we're doing
I
this
ain't got
flash
HIV
sale
yet.
until we literally run
I
out.
was responsible
Any
for a lot of
patriot
bad
would be
shit on this
crazy to
planet
not
because
get
I'm
their
point
hands
of
on
origin
these.
Mars.
Our goal is
And
to
you know
ship
what? I
out
went
as
into the
many as
future
possible
past
to
2030
show our
as
support for how
F-45
great this
Alpha.
country is.
I done
We want
dotted
to see
greed
these
on that
bobbleheads
timeline.
everywhere.
Angels need
On your
jobs, and I
kitchen
came
island,
back as
on your
Donald
dad's
Trump.
work desk,
After having been
bobbling
William
away
Dennison,
on
the
the front
24th
dashboard
governor
of
of
your car.
Ohio and Postmaster
Let's
General
make
for
this country
Lincoln,
great again, folks.
the man walked the
Get your
grounds. Look him
Trumpinator
up.
bobblehead now before
Right
it's too
there.
late.
Now he thinks he's
We
Arnold.
only have a limited amount.
And he's got a big
We're gonna
head,
keep
but
the
you know,
sale
if you
up
do
until
the
we run
invert
out.
of him,
And I'm telling
you'll get
you right
the big
now,
body and the
we
little
will
head.
run out fast.
Yeah, you'll run out all
Last
right.
time we-
The ball had a heart attack.
That somewhere between 7 and 10 million Ukrainians inside Ukraine were starved to death, an orchestrated famine. Those who were not starved to death deliberately by the removal of all food and the decimation of their families, the destruction of their property, were then shot on sight, raped and shot, or deported. And the difference between the concentration camp system that develops early in the 20s
being
and
a
lasts
Draco
all the
commoner.
way into the early 1960s.
All right, you'll get a seat.
And the
Inside the
concentration
Ukraine.
camp that
It'll be
springs
great
up
until it's over.
after we go into, or after the Germans go
You'll eat
into
potatoes.
Eastern Europe,
You'll
after the
smell,
invasion of the Soviet Union.
And by God, when you go,
is that
you will go
the
down hard and
concentration
fast, and
camps
I'll see you
in
back in
Russia
Draco
are in
land.
areas where the weather is so
Because
severe.
we cheat.
The temperatures are so low.
And
the
that's
food
the
is
dark
so
side
bad,
of
the
communism
treatment
on
being
both
out to
sides.
prisoners is
China
so
and
horrific
Russia, they just
that
mashed
within the
each other,
first
and the
30
Ukrainians were
days
the
to 90
advisors
days
to both
6
sides,
months, almost everybody was
as
dead.
well as fighters.
In other words, you didn't have
They
to
were
deliberately
interlaced on
employ
the top of the
chemical
Nazi
means
side
to
and the top
eradicate
of the Stalin
desired
side
population.
as assassins.
They died of explosion.
Whatever they needed.
And more
I mean,
people
come on, if they're the
died
Draco
between
and they get to
1918
pick the
and
spots that they
1941,
want to fucking
we
tilt the
think
Titanic,
maybe more than
that
died
they
during
are
the Second World War
surgeons
fighting
as well as
against the Nazis.
comedians.
The
And
other thing
Borat
is that
is
they talk
perfect
about
proof.
the Great Patriotic War.
And right now you got
but
Mark
1.5
Warburg
million
and these
so-called
other fake
Soviet
Jesus
citizens
people pointing at the
volunteered
cross.
for duty with the
You
Wehrmacht.
guys need to listen up.
And beings inside the Soviet
This
Union.
is how complicated this shit is. These fucking Boston bomber types, like Affleck and Mark Warburg, he's giving you the pious look now with some fake fucking Jesus look, and Jim Caviezel dragging you back to a picture of the bloody cross, or the actual statue. Let's get back and let's pray. It's diabolical. That's like walking backwards and pretending that you need to go back into church and eat my body, drink my blood, and they're trying to be authentic about it, but they're behind the bin, just like Caviezel and Tim Ballard, and they're all hypnotized by Harley Pasternak, way up above LL Cool J, a Canadian fucking nutritionalist, military guy, who's a good friend of Jim Caviezel.
You would not have had the fear that emerged in the rest of Europe,
Jesus.
particularly in Germany, where by the time
Throw in a
Hitler
surrogate baptism from the Mormon
elected to office,
and let
when
the
I say
New World
elected,
Order
that's
take
misleading. He had
over
32% of the vote. It
Salt
was
Lake
largely
City.
in response to the fear of communism inside
That
Germany.
tabernacle
People
choir is
knew
a big
that
black
millions were
woman,
being
the
starved
New World
to
Order telling you,
There's somewhere between 7 and 10
off my
million
property.
Ukrainians inside
It's
Ukraine
United
were
Nations
starved
property
to
now,
death, an orchestrated
but it's
famine.
Utah.
Those who were not starved to death
Fucking
deliberately
four
by the
corners.
removal of all
Well,
food and the decimation of their families, the destruction of their property, were then
Utah.
shot
Utah.
on sight, raped and shot, or deported. And the difference between the concentration camp system that develops early in the 20s and lasts all the way into the early 1960s and the concentration camp that springs up after we go into, or after the Germans go into Eastern Europe after the invasion of the Soviet Union, is that the concentration camps in Russia are in areas where the weather is so severe. The temperatures are so low. The food is so bad. The treatment meted out to the prisoners was so horrific that within the first 30 days to 90 days to 6 months, almost everybody was dead.
However,
in other words, you didn't have to deliberately employ chemical means to eradicate the desired population. They died of exposure.
He went right after
and more people died between 1918 and 1941
because his family was murdered in front of
maybe
him.
more than died during the Second World War fighting against the Nazis.
Fucking figure it out.
The other thing is that they talk about the Great Patriotic War, but 1.5 million so-called Soviet citizens volunteered for duty with the Wehrmacht.
And he believed it.
Hundreds of thousands of Russians, more than a quarter of a million Ukrainians,
when they coached him
hundreds
on
of thousands of Mongolian, Turkic, Armenian, Georgian people, Tartars, all of them settled up as soon as they could with the Germans against communism.
And then read
That's what
his
people don't
words,
understand.
The Yassine
there
version.
were 2 million Soviet prisoners of war sitting in camps that were ready to volunteer and go out and fight with the Germans against the Soviets.
Truth and get to the Yassine versions. ESSENE.
In other words, people don't understand that communism was the real cause of this horrific war.
People can
now that doesn't absolve Hitler,
day
but it changes the complexion of the discussion. I didn't expect Putin to mention all of it, but the notion that you could have had a war at all without Stalin is ludicrous nonsense. And even in more material terms, when the Germans finally attacked the West, when they go into Scandinavia and overrun the Low Countries, defeat the British and the French and France. All of the
true
oil,
version of
all of
equality,
the raw materials,
and then they twist
the food, the gasoline,
and
everything is from Russia.
The words with
supplied
the commoners,
by Stalin, because
and
Stalin
they get on top.
That the Germans and the British and the French would end
exterminating
up in a World War I scenario in a stalemate, which would then offer him opportunities to attack from behind.
And it started.
Didn't work out that way, did it?
With Mao.
But you know, the problem is the Russians need
because there were dynasties before
They closed
communism.
down the NKVD archives.
It dates back to the
so
Buick.
that the Russians do not know the full truth.
And
they
Tiger
were finding
Woods.
it out up until about 2001,
Why they like the Buick? It's the
2002.
dynasties.
People were
predate
becoming
communism.
enraged when they found out that more than
like
15
we can reach back
Soviet soldiers died in the war. They were enraged when they found out that Stalin's NKVD executed 1 million Soviet soldiers who refused to fight the Germans. So this great patriotic war myth, if you will, is something they can't afford to destroy, at least in their minds. Now, everything that was said about Tsarist Russia from 932 up to 1918 was true and accurate. And however many mistakes the Tsars may have made, and however inhumane from time to time they may have been, compared with what followed them, they were wild-eyed humanitarians. That was my problem.
Defeating a criminal who tries to attack you is surprisingly simple. You just need to follow the Romanian Rambo's 2 golden rules of self-defense.
The Romanian
If you're
Rambo.
not familiar with Matej, known in combative circles as the Romanian Rambo, he's one of the most respected...
Problem. Now, Tucker couldn't push back against the head of state and say, you're not telling us the truth about what happened with Stalin. That was beyond the scope of this thing. But I'm disappointed that no one in Russia will stand up and tell the truth. Stop pretending that there was something good that happened under communism. There wasn't. It was the evil empire.
See, that's not
true. The good news is that today's Russia has nothing in common.
Okay, let me explain something to you. My daughter, Katie, went over to Poland as a Rotary Club exchange student in the early 2000s. Because I went over to Iraq and I ran around Iraq, and then I visited her in the Super Bowl window because I had the contract to support the intel services. So I was all over Iraq on both sides, the white side and the black side. Coming back from that trip, I met her in Poland. I flew in and found a rent-a-car and drove to where she was in eastern Poland. It wasn't her original point of origin in Poland, but she had moved there or been moved when was with this family. The guy was really cool. He made his own vodka. His wife's name was, I think, Barbara, and he said that she was the dishwasher. Like that was the name of his dishwasher. So he was a funny guy. And his vodka was delicious, and my daughter was put on a lot of weight. So we got very comfortable talking about real shit face to face in Eastern Poland. And this is in the early 2000s. And he told me, as honestly as he could, that it was better, in his opinion, when they were part of the organization and structure. It'd be like if you lived in a county and all of a sudden everything's shut down, the councils, and everybody said, nope, we're not doing this government anymore, we're going home. And everybody went, yeah, let's drink. And then an order from chaos, because they had to figure it out. And I guess they weren't back to where they were. So in his take, it was better. So therefore, what this guy's saying is bullshit, because the social network of coverage came with the party. In Soviet Union, in this case, Poland. And I visited the concentration camp, not the ones in Germany. And it was the size of 30 football fields. And the amounts of collected belongings have been left in place. And the people in the West haven't gone there because it's kind of like the Iron Curtain dropped. And unless you're a real tourist, you don't want to go into Eastern Poland. Like, why do you want to go there and put it on your list of places to travel? There weren't many foreigners, so to speak, there when I visited my daughter. But you got a sense of Germany. And because I was in Germany several times, you know, the tight streets and the castles and the way that the towns and cities are built, you could feel that. As far east as Eastern Poland, an extension of Germany. Street widths, they had a McDonald's, they put eggs and goulash and all kinds of shit on the whatever it was. Rodrigo was there. I hope you're doing good in Mexico, brother. I asked all those kids, sitting them down, 15, 16, 17 years old in 2003. Exchange students, they're all fucking sitting in Poland. I roll in from Iraq. I'm Billy the Kid. I said to them, where do you want to be in 5 years? Just to have a conversation. Because they were there then, not knowing shit, just kids. Then they went home, now they're adults, and I'm here talking about it. So let's listen to the final piece of this.
With it. And if anything, it looks more like Tsarist Russia, only with a much more humanitarian face and a much higher standard of living. We should all be grateful for that, and they
Obama
should take
had
great
czars.
pride in that. That's my personal
Putin held him by his tie.
The truth just hasn't hit the light.
Gotcha. Oh, wow.
The truth hasn't hit the
seen,
light. What?
Many journalists.
Very, very poor choice of words, sir. You're demoted.
Come down hard on Tucker Carlson.
I'm going to make you
not pushing back.
God
more
bless R.B. Reynolds. I'm going to pull his rank.
When was the?
I visited the guy at Lake Balmorhea. 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 Try saying it 10 times. This guy was a private. He accelerated to captain. General said, you're a captain. They fucking went back. They pulled it off him. He ends up a Gitmo. I'm stripping this guy of his rank because he just said truth hitting the light. They're the same thing, you bozo. I like the guy, though. He has a great credibility, excellent vocabulary, very distinguished, dresses up nicely. Do not promote. He made it to senatorsconsultant.eu, for Christ's sake. How much better are you going to do than that? I forgive him. We'll talk someday. Russell J. Gould can judge him. I say don't torture him. But a water board might be in who put him on senatorsconsultant.eu? That's what I'd like to know. Everybody have peace. Some dude wrote it at the top. It's the name McCormick is in there as a McCormick group. And I don't know who he thinks he is, but let me tell you what about that. People that know me know enough. Firstborn, baby. Aries. 32659. 8675309. When you do my birthday and you go 032659. 8675. Well, all the numbers are there in the corners. 032659. The four corners have those four numbers. It just worked out that way. And there's a girl named Jenny who's, I know a lot of Jennys. And I'm in Texas right now. And I'm at McDonald's, but I'm McCormick. And Donald is Ronald McDonald. We're in the end times, and it's epic, and Yeshua is the Shemesh. And everybody have a great day. Peace. Out.